Welcome back to the Everyday Disciple Life. I am so excited to have my next guest with us. This is Karen. Karen is a finance coach who helps couples get on the same financial page and win with money. In the early days of her marriage, she and her husband didn't have a good handle on their finances and everything felt like a mess. But once they started talking about money and budgeting together, everything changed for the better. Getting in control of their finances created a ripple effect of positivity in their marriage. Now she wants to help couples feel more in control with their money too. She meets with clients virtually to help them manage their money together. Karen, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So I know it's a little late for you tonight. So thank you for staying up late to be with us. So I would just love to hear, why is this topic so important for you?
Well, as you said in your introduction, which was wonderful, thank you. When we first got married, my husband was a youth worker and I was a new teacher. So we weren't exactly rolling in money. In fact, money was very tight, but still, we still went on like vacations to Barcelona, and we saw relatives in other parts of Spain. And when I think back on it, I just think, well, you know, so cheap to blame, like, oh, this is what we'll do for the week, but we had no real idea, no real handle on our finances. And we would just put things on the credit card and pay it off later. And we didn't budget together. My husband was quite overwhelmed and reluctant to talk about money. And whereas I find in most couples, one is a saver and one is a spender. So I'm definitely the saver and my husband was the spender. Although, I do like to spend money on myself, as well. So he can't take all the blame, but we had, there was money coming in and there was money going out, but we had no real idea of what was going out and what on. And and then later on in our marriage, we moved to a different part of the UK, and I remember on the 10th or the 11th of every month we were back in the overdraft again, and it was just or like what we call a hamster wheel. Or a treadmill. We were just going on and on and on. Then we just needed to breathe. And it was only until just a few years ago that I found Dave Ramsey. And I know in America you either love him or you don't love him. And but he was the one person that I just found him on YouTube, and I'm like, wow, this guy speaks common sense, And it was then that my husband and I, well, first of all, I got on board, and then about a year later, I kind of had to show a lot of grace to my husband, and I had to be patient because he was quite reluctant to talk about money, and that's okay. And I learned a lot of things on the way, which I share with my clients now. But now we budget together, and we spend less than we earn, and we can save, and we've been clearing debt, and it's just like, oh yes, there is hope. And I also just remember that on the day that my husband said, okay, I think we can do this, I was like, wow, and I just felt so hopeful. And I was like, well, I just thought I've got to share this. So that's when I started writing my blog. And then a few years later, someone said, you could really help people with this. And that's when I started becoming a finance coach, because I just want to share what I know. And I do a lot of work with younger people in their 20s, because I just wish someone had told me this in my 20s. It would have been amazing. But never mind, better late than never.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I talked before that my husband and I are also baby steppers. And you're absolutely right. People either love Dave Ramsey and his process, or they don't. And we get a lot of questions from people, but my husband and I are both spenders. It's a dangerous situation. So yeah, budgeting together is so powerful. And I was the one who was really reluctant in our relationship to start talking about the money and start doing it together. But man, once we did, it just opens up other conversations that you're not having. You don't realize you're not having until you start doing that budget together. So anyway, I don't want to take away from that. Go ahead.
Sorry, were you reluctant because you thought it would mean you couldn't have any like fun money?
I was reluctant because before he and I got married, I was actually married previously. And after that divorce, we were like, me and the girls were broke. And so like really bad. And so the thought of budgeting kind of like gave me these flashbacks to this time in my life where we had nothing, even though the budget prevents that. But at the time I wasn't ready to dig into that. But now that I'm doing it, it's like, there's this peace. The budget brings peace. So
Yes. And I remember in the early days, I thought budgeting meant that you couldn't have any money. It was just like this budget and you didn't have any money to spend at all. And then it was over time, I learned that actually you can have a fun category and you can still go out for a coffee and you can still treat yourself. And, so that kind of turned things around for me as well. So yeah,
awesome.
Interesting, isn't it?
It really, really is the connotation we've put on that word, right? It just simply means description. Like it's a description of where you want your stuff to go. Anyway, like I don't want to take away from the fun stuff you're going to share.
Oh, bless you. Well, so I know some people call it a spending plan. And I know that someone's just actually brought I've made a very simple Excel spreadsheet for people who are reluctant to talk about money and don't want to be overwhelmed by it. And one of the people that just brought it just said, it was actually quite scary at first because I had no idea where my money was going. But now after 3 months, now I'm getting there and now I can see and now I feel more in control. And he had to have more self-control about where he spends his money. So that was quite interesting too.
Yeah, absolutely. That awareness just changes everything. It makes anything possible. Once you're aware of what you're doing and where you're at, you can change it if you so desire. And let's be honest, we wouldn't budget if we didn't want something to change, right? But yeah, absolutely. We need that awareness. So
very much.
How does this idea of being in control of our finances, how does that relate to being a disciple of Jesus?
Well, obviously as a Christian, I want to be more like Jesus, and I'm obviously nowhere near that, and but that's what I strive to do. And I just think the fruits of the Spirit, showing love and grace and having self-control, and especially the day we record this, it's the day before Thanksgiving, and we've got Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and the emails are coming in, and the adverts are all out there, and just the pressure to say, let's buy this because it's 15% off and this is such a bargain. And the product placements and the smells that the people put in the stores, wow, you've got to have some self-control, right? Because you could just go crazy. So for me as a disciple of Jesus, just firstly bringing hope to other people that if you are in debt, it's okay. You can get out of it. It will be hard. Bringing them that hope and encouraging them, showing them grace, and teaching them those tricks, those strategies that you have to get some self-control. And it's not easy, but it's what we strive to do. And when we don't hit the mark, we show each other grace. So yeah, and from my one aim now is just to bring hope to people that when you can't sleep at night because you're worried about those credit card bills, it's just breathe, take a deep breath, and it's okay. We can make a plan. And I find when people make a plan, they're a bit calmer and all will be well. It will be hard and could be a long road, a long journey, but we can get there. And I think with that encouragement and that love and that grace, we can do that. So that's what I try to do, is just to show the fruits of the Spirit through what I do to my clients.
Oh, I love that. It just goes to show that the fruits of the Spirit, that's not some theoretical thing that happens over there that we hope for. It's actually something that we walk in every day, that the Holy Spirit comes out in us on a random Tuesday when we're at work or we're working with our kids or working with our clients. Like it just comes out of us through the Holy Spirit because we're walking with Jesus. I just love that. I love that. Thank you.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yes. So what are some, we've kind of talked a little bit about, a few of the things that the benefits of budgeting, and particularly budgeting with your spouse. What are some mistakes that couples might make when they're first starting out doing this?
Well, when we first started, or when I first tried to start talking to my husband about money, one of the biggest mistakes that I would make is that I would just kind of like spring the idea on him out of the blue. Now, my husband is a night owl and I am a morning person. So I've been up like a couple of hours, and then I take him his tea and I go, oh, by the way, I've been thinking, let's do this and let's do that. And the poor guy was just waking up, and I was like, okay. And in hindsight, maybe that wasn't the best thing, but I did that for a little while, and until I kind of thought, that's not working. So let's try something else. And so now I do this, and I encourage my clients to do this as well if they have a reluctant or an overwhelmed spouse, is to find them when they're in a good mood, when they're singing, or when they're in a good excuse me, when that they're in a good mood, and then say, well, I have just been thinking about, maybe could we afford to do this, or I've been thinking about this. Do you think we could just catch up over the weekend when we've got some time to chat? Can we go through the budget together? Can we have a look at the finances? Another top tip is to not sit down when you've got people coming or when you're going out the door in like 5 minutes. Make sure that there is time. Make sure you've got your favorite beverage. And another good thing that I found is to do something fun afterwards. Go for a walk, or do something that you enjoy together, watch a movie, so that your spouse knows that you're not going to be sat here for an hour and a half talking about money if that's something that they don't enjoy.
Yeah. I'm thinking about it. I can see my husband actually use some of those strategies on me.
Oh,
they work, y'all. They work.
Good.
I'm glad. Yes. Yes. I mean, because at first, it was like, I don't want to talk about it. Just handle it. Just handle it. It's what I used to say. Just handle it. And he kept saying, I want to include you in this because it's not just me. And he kept saying, this is one of the ways I'm showing my love and respect for you. Like, he was so good, y'all, so good. And, but like one day we had set aside some time to have game night. And he said, we've got that set aside to do game night, just the two of us. Why don't we take the first 30 minutes and go over the finances? He trapped me. Oh my goodness. But then we had game night and it was fun. So yeah.
And you knew it wasn't going to last forever, right? You knew you were going to get this time and you can move on.
Yeah. Another thing he did for me is that I'm the one who gets really overwhelmed with a lot of numbers, and like my husband's a spreadsheet guy. He just loves the spreadsheets. And the way he does it, like I can't even look at it. Even now, I can't even look at it. And so he created a page on his spreadsheet just for me that simplified everything. And so yes. he would actually print that out for me and hand it to me, because I would rather do paper than the tablet. And he would use his and I would have mine. And that just, that was one way he showed that he understood and appreciated my input. Yeah. Even though it was different than the way he processed things. So anyway, I appreciated that as the reluctant person.
Yeah. And you're both different, right? And you both work different ways, but it's great that you found common ground and that he was able to create something that didn't overwhelm you, and that you could appreciate and roll with. That's great.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So you've given some really great practical strategies about, helping your reluctant partner come on board and having those conversations. Let's say that the reluctant partner is like, okay, fine, let's do this. What are some tips that you have for that very first budget meeting together? What would you recommend that they do?
Well, I would do, if your husband or your wife is overwhelmed, then fill in as much of that spreadsheet as you can. So it's not going to be too long a meeting, and just ask them then for the figures that you need to work on together. So for us, things like how much I got paid, how much did you, I need 3 numbers from you. I need to know if there was anything left in your bank account at the end of the month. Was there, what did you get paid? And, how much is your credit card this month? Those 3 things. And then, excuse me, most other things are just standard. This is what we're tithing. This is our grocery bill. And then sometimes, because of the cost of living has just gone through the roof, sometimes we need to go, right, okay, and then we can sit down and say, right, this isn't working anymore. We're spending more than this on the groceries. Even though it's the same stuff that you bought 6 months ago, the price has increased drastically. Where can we cut back from? Or where is there some wiggle room? Yeah, so fill in as much of that spreadsheet as you can before you sit down together. That would make things a lot easier.
Oh, so good. So good. So if you had one piece of advice, one piece of encouragement, if you take nothing else away from today, take this one thing, what would it be?
It would be, if you are planning to get married, if you are talking about marriage and you haven't talked about money, then pause the marriage conversations and talk about money. Because I meet so many people that are married, but they just don't talk about their finances. I meet people that don't know how much their husband earns. They don't know, if they've got or how much debt's on their spouse's credit card. Just be open and honest and show grace and just talk about money. Just put all the cards on the table and share your values. What do you value? And you would hope that people would do that, but it's not all, they don't always do that. So, and us included. And we had marriage prep classes, we had a finance advisor, we had marriage mentors, and we had to discover this all for ourselves. So if I could turn back the clock 20 years, we've been married 20 years this year, if I could turn back the clock 25 years, I would definitely say, you've got to talk about money, don't avoid it. Yes, you might have you come from two different backgrounds, and that's okay, but you need to learn to work together. So yeah, just talk about money before you have those marriage discussions.
Ooh, that's good. Karen, thank you so much. So if our listeners want to learn more from you, where can they find you online?
They can find me on Instagram. I am Money and Marriage 2. That's the number 2. I've also got a website called moneyandmarriage.net, where there are some freebies that can help you to get on the same financial page as your spouse. There is an ebook. There is like a budget that you can download. What else have I got? And I've got like a debt tracker as well, just to help you start your journey.
Oh, fantastic. Karen, thank you so very much. We will make sure to put those links below the video so they can link straight to you, because I know people are going to want to connect.
Thank you so much, Kat. I really appreciate you and the work that you do.